Chrissy and Clive. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hello.
Did you want to say anything before we have questions or anything? You did?
Just to cap that, with respect to the Natural Environment Recovery Program, the key points for our council are really around what's happened with the district plan review. Obviously there's a number of chapters there, the coastal chapter and the natural and cultural heritage chapters have now been notified and people have submitted on that. So from that perspective, those are key chapters that are important with the matters that are in the NERP. And obviously there's still a lot of work going on in the surface water program around Flockton Basin. I know that a lot of work has started on that, and the lower part of Flockton, the Dudley Creek area, is now out for contractors to be appointed, etc. So that work is certainly going ahead as planned. And just the other item that will be of interest to a lot of people is the fact that we have the three water strategy, which is of course the surface water, the water supply and the wastewater matters, is going to bring the three current strategies on water together as one. The work has started, and so that's pleasing to see that. That will become hopefully as a final draft for council by May of next year. So that's it from specifically for Christchurch City Council.
And Madam Deputy Mayor, just the other things I just talk about that aren't in the written report, but that you'll be aware that there's a technical advisory group comprising strategic partners that is meeting 2 monthly. We've got a meeting next week, and I intend for us to discuss the future of the NERP project and how they might sit within the UDS refresh or in the UDS, and how we can continue reporting on environmental projects across the strategic partners as we do here. So it may end up being a different format, but and under different headings. But I think people have, certainly at UDS I see, have asked for some continuation of this sort of collection of reporting on a wide range of environmental projects. So that'll be discussed next week. Second point is I've had an abstract accepted for the People and Disasters Conference. It's here in Wigram in February. And just the title of that is The Importance of the Natural Environment to Health and Wellbeing in a Disaster. And the work that's been done around the Community Wellbeing Strategy Survey and the Community Wellbeing Index are invaluable information for that talk, that discussion that I'll be giving. And I know that's been a SERA-driven report, surveys and index that have been done, but I think it's important as partners we continue with that. It was in existence before the earthquake around the quality of life survey across the eight cities, but I think there's some really good trend data that would be good to maintain. So sometime that would be good to make sure that discussion's happening. Third point, I just wanted to appreciate the invitation I've had from Councillor Cotter to attend the Land Drainage Recovery Program working party. I think it's again, a lot of good information that feeds into the NERP, but I can also take stuff back to the wider Environment Canterbury staff if it's relevant. And then the fourth thing was the relationship with the zone committees. I heard this morning you talking about the Heathcote reports coming regularly to the ITE committee, and I think that's important. But the Heathcote reports will also be going to the Christchurch West Melton Zone Committee.
No problem
and in fact, next week they've got a discussion around some of the research.
No problem with that. The object of that exercise is to make very visible what's happening on the Heathcote and all that's happening on the Heathcote, and then to find what isn't happening on the Heathcote and to make it happen. It was a particular emphasis that we wanted to give. Obviously, it doesn't stop it going anywhere else.
No, I didn't expect it. Well, I'm just saying that I think it's good it's going to both. And with my NERP hat on, I've been working with that Opawaho Heathcote network because I see that they're doing an amazing job getting the groups that are working in different parts of the river together.
It might be a good idea if the zone committee have some sort of minutes or memo or something that comes to council. For instance, is the Addington Creek and
Brook.
Brook and the Riccarton Stream. There's a lot of work going on there. So I think what we're trying to get is the link from the zone committee through to council. So we'll discuss that on Thursday, I think, at the zone committee and see what we can strengthen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Are there any questions of Chrissy or
So
Clive?
there was just one more. Sorry,
Chrissy.
Vicky, was the other zone committee that's relevant to yourselves is with the Banks Peninsula Zone Committee. Coming out of the Littleton Port Recovery Plan was the non-statutory recommendation that there's an integrated catchment management plan for Whakarapu Littleton Harbour, and that's going to be led under the Banks Peninsula Zone Committee, probably through a subcommittee. So, and Christchurch City is an important partner in that, along with Environment Canterbury, Littleton Port, Te Runanga Onatahu, and both Rapaki and Kokararatas as Runanga. So, and others. I mean, DOC is there as well. So, I just think that's important that, although that's come out of a recovery plan, some of the issues in Littleton are earthquake related. Some are obviously historic and much wider. So, and lastly, in the report under recreation, just do want to note the opening of the 360 trail that I know you with the Deputy Mayor and other councillors for the opening, and I think that's a good opportunity for some of the natural environment in Christchurch to be celebrated and explored. And also, I'm aware that the management plan for Montgomery Spur had a intermediate bike track intended in that, and there's discussions with the volunteers that work on the hills and staff to try and get that developed to replace some of the lost tracks that aren't accessible because of rockfall. I'll do the rest by questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Yanni?
Yeah, thank you. Just two pretty straightforward questions and then one probably a little bit more interesting. Just on 13, when are we likely to get a flat water facility report to council over what's been proposed or looked at?
Is that directed?
Is that for Chrissy?
No, I can't answer that.
No, I think it's beyond.
Oh, well, it just says consider establishment of water sports areas beside the Avon River Otakaro. I was just trying to understand if there's any time frame for us getting a report looking at what those opportunities are. It's not
I think you're going to have to ask somebody else at a different time.
Maybe
I don't
we
think
could
it's
just get some
Chrissy's
information
area.
back from the Chief Executive. Just under 16, actually, it's really impressive to see the Christchurch Airshed record lowest ever number of high pollution days. And I just wondered whether there'd been any analysis as to why that was and how that would impact on perhaps ECAN's thinking or our submissions to the banning of log burners or solid fuel heating, given that has been an issue that we previously have discussed as a council.
High pollution days are very variable each year and are very dependent on weather conditions. So I know there's been some work done at looking at the weather conditions this last winter compared with other winters. So, I don't know whether we had a particularly windy or winter. You'll perhaps remember better than I do. You need to remember the goals under the National Environmental Standard is to get down to 1 exceedance per year, so 7's still a long way from 1. So I can't talk for the whole air plan. It's under submission at the moment. It's actually under hearing at the moment. So, but the air plan is out for submission. That I'm sure you're aware of its content. So I won't comment on any changes to that policy.
When does that National Environment Standard come in?
It's already in, and it's got.
No, but when does the one?
2016, I think.
2016, so that's next year.
But maybe three exceedance in 2016. And sorry, there's 2 steps to it. I know that, and I'm sorry, I don't know the dates exactly.
And then just a kind of bigger question, which is obviously the visibility of the NERP and all the different projects has been really good. But do you think there's a need for an environmental impact assessment of the earthquake effects on our city to kind of inform our spending priorities going forward?
You mean a retrospective look at the impact?
Well, we're actually looking at what the environmental impact of the earthquake has been.
So the NERP itself, the work to prepare for the NERP did that. I suppose in my ongoing thinking and presentations to conferences is continually to look at that. There's no formal assessment required, expected, or or planned for. But that's something we could talk about at the technical advisory group about doing some reflection before we pass the NERP through to the UDS.
It's just really, if we were looking at an opportunity to prioritise where our spending should go to make the biggest impact on it, getting a better environment, where would we spend that money, and what would inform that prioritisation?
The intention of the NERP is that all the work that's been done and is being done reverts to back to the responsible entity, and that they continue, and those decisions are made for councils through their LTP processes. So that earthquake isn't going to go on forever, and we do need to get back to sort of business as usual.
Thank you. Any other questions? Phil?
Thanks, Chrissy. I just wanted to ask you about, in terms of the connection with the natural environment and its and people's recovery, and you gave the example of the 360 trail, which we opened the other Saturday, and I just wondered if, like, you'll be aware that council prepare quite a lot of maps for local people, including map walk, current local walks, both the larger ones across the Port Hills and smaller ones. But I'm just wondering if that might be, and for the area of, say, psychosocial recovery, if you think that council might be able to add to that by way of where a lot of the walking tracks are, where are the places people can cycle and that kind of thing, and really, I guess, extend the mapping we've already done.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of that information available. It's
Yes.
just probably not all in one place.
Yeah.
What I've been suggesting to the Heathcote people who are interested in recreation and along the river is to think about doing similar signage to this 360 trails, because the paths are already there, but it's connecting them up and showing, advising people when to cross the river. So whether pamphlets are the right method of letting people know about that now, whether there's other methods. The Rod Donald Conservation Trust is, the Rod Donald Banks Peninsula Trust has done a lot of work on looking at mapping all the tracks, no matter who owns them or manages them on the Port Hills and right through Banks Peninsula. So there is information there. It's an absolute opportunity. Yeah.
It's perhaps pulling it together somehow.
Okay.
Too. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, guys. So moved by Paul, seconded by Jimmy. I'll put it. Those in favour, please say aye. Those